Eternal freedom. That's what I'm talking about. You can get eternal freedom as soon as you don't care about anything anymore. Be detached. Have as much fun as you want. Play with whatever you want. But don't care about it. You're just playing with it. You're just using it. I'm just using it, playing with it. I'm done. Next. There's a case now up where the mother quit breastfeeding at 1 week, I think it was, or 2 weeks. 1 week or 2 weeks. And the baby is now in the baby's died, but the baby had liver failure and kidney failure. Now, the story goes that the mother took her off breastfeeding and put her on fruit. Now, the mother's got a second child. This child, she breastfed for 1 month. Then put this child on fruit.
But why? Why would a mother stop breastfeeding a baby after a few days and start feeding it fruit instead? Where would anyone get such a despicable idea? Well, yes, it's from this guy, of course, Robert Morse, an astonishingly blatant scammer who's still inexplicably allowed to upload YouTube videos. For those who haven't seen any of my videos about Morse before, I'll put a link to the playlist on the screen, but he's basically a raw vegan guru who sells herbs and detox kits, and he pretends to be a doctor. He's never graduated a medical school, let alone a naturopathic one though, and his uploads are mostly him reading emails from his followers and telling them what herbs to buy from his website, or just giving them terrible medical advice. But let's mix it up today and see what parenting advice Robert Morse has for his audience of 120,000 victims, or subscribers. How about we start with this short clip?
We have a baby. He is now 15 months. Fruit, buzz, fruits and berries and melons. Fruits, berries and melons, perfect for children. 15 months, big time. Off of any breastfeeding or milk, or you're going to have lymphatic problems, big time. See, that's a problem. Some of the moms think they have to nurse and give them these milks or formulas for 2 years or more. It's like, and you're going to have a baby with severe lymphatic problems. In today's world, with a baby so lymphatically compromised, you give your babies tumors and everything else by doing this.
Oh, that's just Robert Morse telling a mother that if she doesn't stop breastfeeding her child, she might give it cancer. So apart from bullying mothers about when to stop breastfeeding, what other wisdom does Morse have to share?
Another 6 months or so, you want to be off breastfeeding if you can. And you want to note, Mom, get your breast milk, pH paper. Make sure your breast milk isn't acidic, because if you're eating acid-forming foods, the chances of your breast milk being acidic is true. And I don't care what Joe says, ash-forming foods will have an acid blowback in your body, period, end of story.
Yes, he wants you to pH your breast milk in case it's acidic. Here's some better advice. Don't. If you're worried about your breastfeeding, you should speak to a doctor, but there are actually very few circumstances where you shouldn't breastfeed, and pHing your breast milk is about as sensible as holding a Geiger counter up to your nipple to check for radiation. It's pretty gross of Morse to encourage this kind of anxiety in mothers, but Morse isn't done deriding breast milk and scaring mothers yet.
Mother's milk, human milk, is not overly nutritious. I mean, we're not a species that requires mega nutrition. We have to shift our consciousness from so much of the lower aspects of creation like chemistry and understand magnetics and energy and consciousness more.
Breast milk is perfectly nutritious for infants, and for the first 6 months of their life, babies should be fed breast milk only when possible, and this will meet all of their dietary requirements. And whatever he said about magnetism is also wrong, but much less important. Now, we've talked about breastfeeding here, but not all mothers can breastfeed and not all mothers do breastfeed. So what does Robert Morse recommend in these circumstances?
I think women should, if they can't breastfeed, they should make their own formulas.
Oh, just make your own formula. I mean, firstly, no, don't do that. But I'm curious now, what does he think we should put in it?
Coconut and maybe some chia or hemp seed powder. And, you can really make some formulas that these babies will come out like, King Kong. So they're just little people. and you have the same body as everyone else does.
Wow, okay, thanks but no thanks. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but even though blended coconut is a white liquid, it's not really a milk. You cannot meet the nutritional requirements of an infant with a homemade concoction of fruit powders and juices. Babies do not have the same nutritional requirements as adults, and Morse repeats this kind of nonsense about them being just little people quite frequently. Babies have specific dietary requirements because they're growing. And I have to say, this make-your-own formula malarkey seems like a pretty big ask from Morse, because he's been telling his audience that he'll develop his own formula for years, and he's never done it. Let's hear him explain why.
I think it's important that if you're a mother and you want to do something like don't breastfeed at all, then you got to call us and let us work with you through that. Because there are superfood blends, and we do have our breast milk blend. I don't have it where it doesn't stick up in the bottle, nipple.
Oh, so Master Herbalist Robert Morse can't get his formula to even flow out of a baby bottle. Well, that sounds perfectly safe, but wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective.
But it's still there available if you wanted it. In terms of making it, make your own, and cheesecloth, and and getting your own, you can do that. But it's a good blend, and we've got that available. It is, we've got some in, I'll put it that way. It's not available for sale, but I'll get you some if you want it. Superfood 3 would be where I would recommend. That's fruits, berries, coconuts, and stuff like that.
So, if you want to feed your precious child with formula sourced from some kind of shady internet deal with a crank herbalist and then cheesecloth out the lumps, go ahead and contact Robert Morse. It's got coconut and berry powder in it, and according to Morse himself, stuff like that. Or you can just buy Superfood 3 blend from his website for, what is it, like $50 for 7 ounces? That's only about 10 times as expensive as real baby formula, with none of the nutrition that your infant needs to grow and develop. It's always good to support YouTube creators by buying their merch though, right? But wait, it's worse. Morse also has some terrible advice for what mothers should feed themselves.
Alright, this is Emily. Alright. Let's see. My mom is concerned about my detox journey. See, did we just talk about that? On herbs and mainly fruits. I'm 31 years old, 5'5". So already we can say, whoa, this could possibly be a pituitary weakness, 5'5".
Okay, so let's skip over Morse berating this woman for not growing enough. Bear in mind that the median height for women in the USA is less than 5'5". She's actually taller than the average woman. And we'll pick up this train of thought where Morse goes back to reading the email and finds out about her weight.
She only weighs 95 pounds. Before starting this journey about a year ago, I now weigh 75 pounds.
Okay, so this woman was already quite underweight before starting her journey with Robert Morse, and now she's lost another 20 pounds. So she's in serious trouble right now. And go ahead and Google what BMI 12.5 looks like. It's shocking. So I wonder what Morse has to say about his handiwork here.
And I can see why her mom is concerned. I really do.
But look at here.
I'm breastfeeding my 2-year-old son, and he's on herbs and mainly fruit too. Am I at a safe weight level? No one in my world, in all my years, have ever died being too thin when all the goodies and the herbs are going in. I've never had that ever seen that ever. Because you have goodies going in, you have energetics going in. Here's what's the main problem when we see someone like this. Obvious, malabsorption. And there's no magic wand, and your mom needs to learn that, hear this, is there's no magic wand, Mom, to your daughter fixing herself. Matter of fact, your daughter's lymph system particularly came from you, so you have to look at yourself and your own lymphatic system and see if you're not in a unsafe zone for your life.
Can you believe the cheek of this response? This woman's written in to ask if having a BMI of 12.5 is safe, and Robert Morse is just like, oh well, as long as you've got the goodies going in, you're not going to die. Oh, and by the way, it's your mother's fault for giving you a crappy lymph system, and she should get herself checked out. And this is just how Robert Morse works. He divides families. I see it all the time when he's reading these emails. And that's one of the things that really makes me think he's leading some kind of cult. But Morse isn't finished working on this case yet.
But she's also breastfeeding at 2 years old. And she's also giving her baby fruit and herbs. I would DC the breastfeeding. That's my own opinion. Way too old of a boy to start continue breastfeeding. What you're going to do is fill your son full of mucus. You're going to get his sinus and his bronchioles and his lungs full of mucus by continuing to feed him milk.
And again, with the bullying over breastfeeding, it's absurd. There's absolutely no evidence or reasoning behind what he's saying here. You will not harm the lungs of your infant by breastfeeding at 2 years old. And I just want to point something out here to the slow-witted. There's nothing wrong with stopping breastfeeding at 2 years old, but it is the mother's choice when to end that relationship. And you cannot harm the health of your child by breastfeeding it for too long. I'm sure some people think it's psychologically unhealthy, but that's not what we're debating here. It doesn't fill the lungs with mucus, so pack up your scare stories about breastfeeding teenagers because I don't want to hear them. We're about to descend even further into the purely evil workings of Robert Morse's mind. What does he think about detoxing, that is, eating an unhealthy diet of exclusively raw fruit for currently pregnant mothers?
Raw during pregnancy, absolutely raw during pregnancy, and pop the green drinks and things. Someone asked me in here about detoxifying during pregnancy. I do not recommend heavy detox during pregnancy in the sense that if you have a weak fetus, it could, I've never seen this, but the body could abort it to get rid of it. Now, from my viewpoint, take it as you will, that would be a positive thing in the sense that, remember, you can't kill soul. It would be very egotistical for us to assume that we could kill something like God.
That's right. Robert Morse says that if you lose your child during pregnancy because you're on a detox diet, that would be, in his mind, a positive thing. He doesn't recommend it, and he's never seen it, but it would be a positive thing because it's a weak fetus. And if you don't think that's an incredibly cruel thing to say, then I guess you might well be lost to the Morse cult. And to hear Morse lecture people on being egotistical, well, I just couldn't bring myself to cut that. But I want to change pace a bit here, because this is not an anti-vegan video, although I'm sure a lot of people will see it that way. And I'm going to share this page from the Vegan Society in the UK, which has some straightforward and scientifically backed advice about pregnancy and breastfeeding for vegans. Let's take a look at their basic tips for pregnancy. Eat plenty of foods rich in iron, such as lentils, chickpeas, beans, tofu, etc. Eat plenty of calcium-rich foods. Ensure a reliable daily intake of vitamin B12 from fortified foods or a supplement. Now that one is important. Ensure a reliable iodine intake by using a supplement. Whilst trying for a baby and during the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, take a daily folic acid supplement. That's actually for everyone. Take a daily supplement containing vitamin D. Consider microalgae omega-3 fat supplementation, limit caffeine consumption, follow advice about food safety during pregnancy, keep active, and monitor weight gain. Those last few actually apply to everyone. And what do they have to say about breastfeeding? Drink plenty of fluid, eat foods rich in protein and zinc, like beans, chickpeas, lentil, tofu, etc. Eat plenty of calcium-rich foods. Ensure a reliable intake of vitamin B12. Again, that's important. Ensure a reliable iodine intake by using a supplement. Take a daily supplement containing vitamin D, and consider microalgae omega-3 fat supplementation. And the last thing they've written here at the bottom is about formula, where they say if breastfeeding is not an option, infant formula is recommended. Soya-based infant formula can be fed to vegan infants when breastfeeding is not an option, but please speak to a health visitor or doctor before using it. So that all sounds like perfectly sensible advice that I think most people would benefit from, not even necessarily vegans. One of the important and well-studied supplements in that list is vitamin B12, and this is key for vegans because plant-based food does not have enough vitamin B12 in it. All B12 is produced by bacteria, but because animals store this vitamin, most people can get enough from meat, eggs, and dairy, but vegans can take a supplement or get it from fortified foods. If you don't do this, first of all, you could make yourself sick, but if you're a nursing mother, your breast milk may also lack vitamin B12, and this will make your child sick. So breastfeeding on a raw vegan diet without a supplement is dangerous and has caused malnutrition and even death in infants before. These cases occasionally pop up in the media and in case reports, and I showed a few at the start of this video. But what does Morse have to say about B12?
B12, forget that. Iodine, definitely forget iodine. Oh, that's insanity. Okay, we don't give him any dairy, eggs, or animals. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Vitamin B12. Fix your adrenals, because again we're getting into cobalt, the metabolism of cobalt, and the spring off of vitamin B12. You supplement it, it's ridiculous.
So in quite an ironic twist really, one of the few ways you could actually make breastfeeding dangerous is by following Morse's advice to consume a raw vegan diet and avoid supplementation. Look, I'm not a big believer in supplements or multivitamins, but there is really good evidence behind B12, and if you choose a vegan diet, you should take that supplement or eat fortified foods, if not for your own health, then for the health of your children. This is a video that could unfortunately go on forever, because giving bad advice about breastfeeding is one of Morse's favourite topics, and I haven't really talked much about formula based on cow's milk. So for the record, research suggests that breastfeeding has health benefits for both the mother and the child, but no, I don't think mothers should feel guilty or ashamed if they formula feed their baby, and yes, the way formula is advertised and sold to mothers, especially in developing countries, has been detrimental to some children's health, but it is not the dangerous poison Morse has made it out to be in various videos of his. All things considered, a formula-fed baby is likely to grow and develop normally, unlike an infant fed on, say, Robert Morse's Superfood Blend 3. The advice Robert Morse doles out to parents in these videos brings to mind this paraphrase of Voltaire: those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities, and if you follow Morse's advice here, you may well end up committing an atrocity. And I want to end this video with a point of discussion and then an important announcement. Firstly, I have never reported another YouTube channel or video, and that includes all of the people I've uploaded videos about, and that's because I have a fairly strongly held conviction that we should strive to have open debates and really limit censorship. And that's why I upload these videos. I'm trying to win the argument rather than shut people down by reporting their videos. But YouTube claims to be a platform that removes dangerous health claims. Unsuspecting victims of Robert Morse will certainly see the presence of his videos on YouTube as an implicit endorsement of his credibility. Here is my feeling: if only one person takes his advice seriously, a child is going to get harmed, and that's the inevitable consequence. And if it is actually the case that no one takes his videos seriously, then I don't think they will be a great loss to YouTube. So for the first time in my life, I will be reporting these videos, and there will be some links in the description for anyone who thinks that this is the right thing to do. And look, I totally respect those people who do not want to report videos because they feel uneasy about a global mega corporation deciding what is and isn't true in science and medicine. But I hope you can follow my reasoning here, respect this decision, and keep watching my videos even if you disagree with me. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I've been contacted by a couple of people recently whose families have been seriously impacted by Robert Morse's dangerous health advice. They're looking to pursue Robert Morse through the legal system, and they both reached out to me on Facebook. So if you're a dissatisfied patient willing to make a complaint about Robert Morse, or perhaps you're someone experienced in law who thinks that they could help, please do get in touch with me. I can't promise this will go anywhere, but I was very moved by their stories, and perhaps if we can connect a few of the right people, we could make some progress. As always, I don't run adverts, and I leave all this begging to the last minute, so if you like this style, please support what I'm trying to do by rating the video up now and subscribing if you want to see more. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you want to be sure to stay in touch if this channel ever gets removed, and leave a comment. I still keep up with basically all of them at the moment, and I think they help with how the video is promoted by the YouTube algorithm. Oh, and one last thing, please share this video to the Robert Morse groups on Facebook.